Boustead Holdings slipped into the red for the fourth quarter of FY 2022, weighed down by the 552.3 million ringgit inventories write-down arising from slow-moving stocks of COVID-19 vaccine at its 52% owned subsidiary Pharmaniaga. The group recorded a net loss of 402.3 million ringgit versus a net profit of 78.6 million ringgit in the fourth quarter of FY 2021. This was despite a 25% growth in revenue to 3.69 billion ringgit. Group CEO Izzadin Daud noted the write-down was indeed deeply concerning, but said Boustead is confident that Pharmaniaga remains a going concern and is well poised to tap on the strong prospects of the pharmaceutical sector, domestically and regionally. He said the group is supporting the unit's management team to ensure a robust regularization plan is in place to strengthen the company's balance sheet and progressively work towards the upliftment of the PN17 status. For the full year, Boustead reported a 64% fall in net profit to 62 million ringgit and a 34% rise in revenue to 15.11 billion ringgit. At the close, its shares fell 8.1% to 62.5 sen for a market capitalization of 1.27 billion ringgit. Dato' Sri Najib will find out before March 31st whether the federal court will decide to overturn his guilty verdict and sentence in the SRC International case. The Apex Court indicated the bench was not in a position to decide today and reserved its decision on his review application. On August 23, 2022, Najib was sent to Kajang prison to begin serving his jail sentence after a previous federal court bench upheld the Court of Appeal and High Court decision that the former Pekan MP was guilty of the crimes for which he was charged in the SRC case. He was found guilty of 3 counts of criminal breach of trust and another 3 counts of money laundering of 42 million ringgit of SRC funds between December 26, 2014 and February 10, 2015. He was also convicted of abuse of power over the approval of 4 billion ringgit in loans in August 2012 and March 2013 by Govt. The edge is given to understand that one of the judges on the federal court bench hearing the review application, Justice Dato' Vernon Ong, is due to retire before March 31st. Judges face the maximum retirement age of 66 years and 6 months under the federal constitution. Malaysia Airports Holdings MAHB returned to the black in the fourth quarter of FY 2022, boosted by higher revenue, reduction in utilisation fees and better share of results from joint ventures and associates. Its latest quarterly earnings came in at 359.14 million ringgit versus a net loss of 136.73 million ringgit a year earlier. The airport's operator had been in the red for 11 consecutive quarters since the first quarter of FY 2020. MAHB MD Dato' Iskandar Mirza Mahmud said passenger traffic is steadily improving and recovering closer to pre-pandemic levels after a tumultuous period of uncertainty and challenges. The group declared a final dividend of 3.91 sen per share. The return to profitability was achieved on the back of an 81.89% jump in revenue to 1 billion ringgit, in tandem with a significant increase in passenger volumes driven by further easing of travel protocols and further resumption of airline services and connectivity. MAHB also saw a turnaround in its full-year earnings with a net profit of 187.2 million ringgit compared with a 766.44 million ringgit net loss in the previous year, as revenue jumped 86.91% to 3.13 billion ringgit. At the close, its share price was 1.59% lower at 6.79 ringgit, giving the group a market capitalization of 11.27 billion ringgit. Deputy Minister of Finance 1 Dato' Sri Ahmad Maslan says Putrajaya could save between 15 billion ringgit and 17 billion ringgit per year if it excluded the top 20% of the country's earners from fuel assistance under a targeted subsidy mechanism. He said in Parliament that subsidies for petrol, diesel and liquefied petroleum gas totaled 50.8 billion ringgit last year. 35% was enjoyed by the T20 group, 41% benefited the M40 B30 and 24% went to the B40 group. Ahmad noted the 35% of 2022's 50.8 billion ringgit fuel subsidies that went to the T20 would translate to 17.8 billion ringgit. This bill being borne by the government would go up to 66.3 billion ringgit if subsidies for cooking oil, electricity, chicken, eggs and other consumer goods are taken into account, including cash handouts for education, transport and agriculture. He said the figure would go up to 91.4 billion ringgit. This is why the government is considering lowering electricity subsidies for high-income households in the second half of this year. According to Ahmad, big companies and the top domestic users consume 56.4% of the electricity subsidies. Businessman Radlan Muhammad was charged again in the Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court, this time with soliciting a 2 million ringgit bribe concerning the Jana Wibawa scheme, which was established to help Bumiputra contractors. The Bersatu Deputy Division Chief for Segambut pleaded not guilty to the charge of allegedly asking for a bribe from a Lian Tan Chuan who runs Nepturus to help the company bag a contract for the Klang Utara District Police Headquarters project worth 141 million ringgit. If convicted, he faces up to 20 years jail and a fine of not less than 5 times the amount of the bribe or 10,000 ringgit, whichever is higher. Adam was previously charged on 4 counts of soliciting and receiving bribes in connection to Jana Wibawa. The court fixed March 23rd for case mention. Jana Wibawa was mooted during the PN administration, where Bersatu was a component party. Former Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin and then Finance Minister Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul Abdul Aziz have been summoned by the MACC over the matter.